Hello everyone, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense and welcome to day 5. Yay, we've made it to day 5 of my first impressions or blind buy first impression week. Today what I'm featuring is a fragrance that's from one of my favorite, well, I'll just put it this way. It's from a fragrance house that is very familiar to you, and this fragrance house has produced one of my favorite winter and fall fragrances that feature cashmeran and manenka fruit. Maybe you're getting an idea. And it's actually creatively called the scent. That's right, you've got it. It is the German house Hugo Boss, and like a boss, I have purchased a fragrance of theirs today that I've never tried, haven't heard anything about, and that fragrance is called, I'm trying to grab it without looking at it, there we go. It is called Hugo Boss Just Different. Hugo Boss has been called a cheapy house because their fragrances are relatively inexpensive. Unless it's highly favored, then you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but usually you can pay a modicum amount for a really good fragrance for the most part. However, a lot of Hugo Boss fragrances suffer from what I call semi-weak to below average projection and longevity, primarily in the longevity department. Now, that's not the case for all their fragrances. They do have some bangers, the ones with the scent Absolute, Boss Bottled Oud. There's several of them that are just fantastic, but primarily they're winter because they're gourmand, they're darker, they're a little bit more complex, a little bit heavier. So owing to those fragrances, those are much more long lasting. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at Just Different to see if it really is different or if it's just more of the same. Coming up next, stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back. Just Different was released originally in, I believe, 1995, and then it was reinvented or reformulated back in 2011, where it was launched again with a brand new campaign that I believe was featuring Jared Leto. So not only is he a front man for 30 Seconds to Mars, but he was also the front of the campaign for Just Different when it was relaunched and re-released. Now the campaign itself was to be a kind of a all-around fragrance for a man that inspires you to do whatever it is that you want to do. So it's kind of a inspirational, kind of generic, not generic in terms of smell, but generic in terms of a do-all fragrance, kind of utilitarian fragrance there. So of course the expectation from the original to the reformulated is that they've modernized it, maybe put it in a new flacon with a little bit of a spin on the actual fragrance itself. So I'm excited to get into it and kind of see how it holds up to the 95 original. Of course, I don't have the 95 original to smell. I can go by what I've heard about it. A lot of times what houses do when they reformulate is they make it they put a modern spin on it. They make it generally more appealing and more pleasing, a little bit more subtle sometimes, and by de facto an improvement. So let's check out the presentation first to see if it's something worth owning. Now, I used to work for Verizon Wireless and their suits were black with the red logo, so I can tell you right up front, I'm a fan of red and black. I was before. Actually, I had to wear those uniforms where they weren't really called uniforms. They were kind of like sport shirts. So I do like the fact that it is red and black, the box itself. Let me take the cellophane off. I'll show you the box a little bit more detail. So I've been trying to make it a thing every day since I've started blind buy week, where I can take off the cellophane in one fell swoop. So I did make one tear on this, and let's see. One fell swoop. I don't know. I'm not going to get a reward for this. Maybe I'll wake up in the morning with $1 under my pillow. Who knows? The organization fairy or the OCD fairy, who knows. So again, red and black is the color scheme that they're obviously going for here. On the front, or the box itself is kind of a satin finish or matte finish, and then the flacon itself is a shiny, glossy finish. You've got the Hugo Boss and Just Different at the bottom here. I'm going to show you that. On the top of the box, you've just got Hugo Boss. On the back of the box, it's kind of hard to see because it's in black and gray, but you've got a description. It says, a vibrant fragrance with a cool twist to inspire whatever you do, just like I said earlier. And one thing I do appreciate about Hugo Boss is they do include their notes, so you're not like scratching your head or going to Fragrantica or Parfumo and trying to figure out what the actual notes are. So that's kind of neat. I'll show you that right there. And then of course the ingredients listing. Now on the very bottom of the box, it's a lot more legible. We've got the SKU and the batch code. So I'll hold that up there. again, for all you batchers, and that way you can kind of look up that information. So reading off the box, let's take a look at those notes and see what's in the juice. Okay, so I'm going to read directly off the back of the box, and let's see what's in the juice. Let's see what those notes are. I don't think it's giving us all the notes, but let's see. It says top notes, ice cold mint. It's got a heart note of basil and freesia and a base note of cashmere. Well, I happen to know there's a little bit more in there, and that's okay. They're not listing all the notes. So what are they missing? In the top note, they've got more than just mint. Okay, otherwise this would be, the expectation would this be like a minty aftershave. They do have an aftershave version of this. This is the eau de toilette version. By the way, this does come in, this is a 125 ml bottle. You can actually get it in a variety of sizes. I believe there's like 40 ml, 75, 100. There's a 125, this, and then I believe there's a 150 ml bottle in some locations too. Maybe not here in the US, maybe just overseas. A lot of different sizes that for your convenience. Now in the top, you do have apple. Some sites say Granny Smith apple. I don't know that it matters too much. Apple is apple, you know, the crisp, and I'm sure it's a, you know, synthetic apple. So you got a synthetic apple with likely a synthetic mint in there in the top. In the mid, it just lists basil and freesia, but there's also coriander in there as well, giving a little bit of spice. Now in the base, it lists just cashmere, but I happen to know that there's also patchouli, labdanum, and olibanum in here, or olibanum, however you want to say that. It's kind of a hard word to pronounce. So there's a lot more going on in terms of the ingredients, the fragrance listing, and the notes than what's listed on the back of the box. So you got to be, you know, use your due diligence and do a little bit of research. Other than that, there is an embossed Hugo Boss on the side. Again, I'll show that in the light so that you can see that. And it's the same on the other side, just reversed. So let's go ahead and take that bottle out and take a look at the inside, the bottle presentation. On the inside, it is black, which is kind of cool, sticking to that black and red theme. Now, I really, really like this presentation. I like the matte finish. This is like a satin, or some would say eggshell, really whatever terminology you want to use. It is definitely not gloss. So it's like a matte finish, we'll say. And then you've got a gloss Hugo and Hugo Boss underneath in red. So that red against the black, that really makes that pop, and it makes it really, really nice looking. On the very back of the bottle, there's nothing. You can see the bottle is slightly indented, just to fit in your hand a little bit better, either this way or this way, however you want to hold it. On the very bottom of the bottle, there is a sticker, a product sticker, and I'll hold that still until the camera focuses on it. You can also get the batch code off of that with some additional product information, including the fact that it's 125 ml. Now that's a generous amount of juice, and because I knew that I would likely like this, because I am a fan of Hugo Boss typically, even though admittedly some of their fragrances do have weaker longevity and projection. As a rule, in terms of the smell, I'm a big fan of the house. So that's why I get the larger bottles. On my channel, you'll see me repeatedly, time and again, recommending getting a smaller size simply because you'll save more money and you can get more scents that way. But for those fragrances that you know you're gonna like, go ahead and get a larger bottle, especially if you know you're gonna be using it. And I definitely know, so far anyway, that I'm really gonna be using this frequently. I'm going to rock it out all day today for sure, so that I can give you some more ideas on tomorrow mornings, on the day after today's episode, so to speak, of our First Impressions Blind Buy Week, to give you a better idea of longevity and projection. Now, if you look at this bottle or this flagon and you say, you know what, that looks really familiar, and if you've ever been in the military service before, then you're absolutely right. This is actually modeled after the GIOD green canteen, the original military canteen. In fact, I'll show you an image. Yep, looks exactly like it. They did a really good job of modeling it after that. And that basically means, it kind of gives it context in terms of it's there wherever you want to go. It is utilitarian. It's for the man that's always ready for anything, ready to take any action, and your fragrance is right there beside you, kind of synergizing, you know, your activities, whatever it is you want to get into. So I like that. I like that idea. I like that thought. And I like the fact that they modeled it after something that a faction of humanity that we owe our gratitude and that services us in such a way, such a fine manner. With the lid, you do have to unscrew it, and that's okay. This will twist off, so you just twist it there a little bit and it pops right off. And you've got a little strip of nylon here that holds your cap into place, and then you've got your atomizer. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to try 2 tests, one on a tester strip and the other on skin today. So let's go ahead and test out the juice and see what it's like. Let me get my fragrance strip. Thank you very much. ASMR. I'm gonna continue doing that just because of that one dude commented, that's like ASMR. I'm gonna keep doing that with the fragrance strips. All right, let's give it a shot. So our 1, 2, 3 pump. 1, 2, 3. Try it again. There we go. I was just priming it. Oh man, I really like this. See, this is very reminiscent of Hugo Boss in 1995, and I do believe that I have worn that. That's why. Wow. That is bringing me like a nostalgic snapshot in my head of 1995. It's amazing. It's amazing the correlation to scent and memory, how it's associated with sparking our memory of nostalgic past times. And it's amazing how well it does it. This is bringing back 1995 so vividly. So I have worn this, not this version, the 1995 version before, and the 2011 version is very similar. It's got some differences in it. Primarily, just like I said before, I can with that, you get that fresh, that mint and that apple, similar to the way we talked about ginger and nutmeg yesterday, how it lifts off the skin. That mint kind of allows it to pop off the skin a little bit, so it's not sitting so close. It's like radiating, almost like a fizzle, like almost like a carbonation or an effervescence. This is going to cause to radiate off your skin, and I really like that because it owes to the life of the fragrance, and it adds projection, you know, to your sillage trail. It adds a little bit of zest or oomph to your sillage trail. I really like that. Really like that open. However, I don't really rely on, again, tester strips. Primarily, I enjoy putting this on skin and getting the best in terms of your... Now, the open is going to be very similar whether you put on tester strip or skin. Usually, that sometimes mixes because it takes time to mix with the oils of your body and change. And it typically takes place into the mid and obviously into the dry down, where it takes its final form. So let's try it out here. I'm going to put it on my wrist just because I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. It's the only skin that's exposed right now. So 2 on each wrist. Man, I'm really gonna like this. I know it seems like in these videos that when I smell the fragrance, I'm always like, wow, this is great. And I am a fairly relatively easy to please person. However, I do take these to task. I really do, in terms of the dry down, in terms of longevity, its projection. But unless something is really just like a slap in the face or super challenging, I don't really take it to task in terms of its pleasantness. Because let's face it, all cars are made with wheels because you want to drive, you want them to roll, you want it to go somewhere. And all fragrances are created to smell good. So in the smell good department, they've pretty much got it made. But if it's a smell that is different or unique or expressive in a way, and that can be negative as it can be positive, I'll definitely let you know. I'm definitely not a yes man. I'm definitely not a guy that's like, these are all good, get them all. No, they have to meet certain specifications and standards for me, as well as me passing that information to you, and then you can make an informed decision about it. But thus far, it seems like we're 5 for 5 so far anyway. I haven't smelled the dry down. I haven't given it a chance to see if the dry down changes my opinion at all, but I really do like so far Just Different. Just Different is a spring and summer casual fragrance, at least in my humble opinion, is best utilized in a casual capacity. It's a fresh, out of the shower clean, but not shower gel-like generic. It's a modern take on the original 95 DNA. Classic yet modern, utilitarian yet versatile. A fragrance on the go, just like that GI canteen. Now, it's not particularly a date night fragrance. You can use it in a date night situation. If your selection or your options there are very limited, you can definitely use it for that. But it's equally a day fragrance as it is a night fragrance. You can wear them, either or, day or night. It is extremely versatile there. Now, I will also say that because it does contain apple and mint and cashmere in it, cashmere is a synthetic, and this, by the way, I'm quite surprised because I know my surprise is low key. It's not like surprise, but I'm quite surprised because I didn't expect to like this as much. Now my expectations are, it seems like that in every video I know where I'm like, oh, I didn't expect, but I truly didn't expect this to be as likable, have a likable profile as it is. So that makes me happy. And it's also owing to the fact that that apple is starting to come out with the cashmere in the mid and in the base in that dry down. So it's like almost like a spicy apple in that dry down. And so that makes it a perfect candidate for fall weather. Not necessarily maybe winter, but fall into cooler weather, definitely spring and summer. So the versatility in this just grew quite a bit in that range simply because of that. So I do really like that fact. So if you're wanting something with a little bit more versatility, it's going to be very, very affordable. This is going to be your guy right here. First of all, the name is a little bit misleading. It's kind of a misnomer. It's definitely not challenging. It's definitely not different. It's not quirky or eccentric. It definitely has good notes and it does what it does really well. This fragrance is going to create a good outcome for you. The people around you will definitely notice this, and it's quite possible and even likely that it will garner compliments. And that is something that every one of us really likes and enjoys. It may not be a necessity, or you may not have to have compliments, but when you get them, it does make you feel good, right? If you're a normal average person, and I like them, I like getting compliments, this will definitely get you some compliments. And that's the intention of the majority of fragrances out there. So instead, this should be named Just Like, or Crowd Pleaser, or Generally Acceptable at All Times, something like that, instead of Just Different, because it isn't different. It's like a lot of good fragrances out there. And I'm saying that that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Just Different were to be like if this smelled like dog crap, and you'd be like, oh wow, why did they make that? Yeah, why, I guess they wanted to be different. It's just different. It's its namesake. So thankfully it's not living up to its name of being different. So it's just like something that you would want to wear, something you would want to buy, a crowd-pleasing, compliment-getting fragrance. Again, the apple and the mint together are very zesty, are very refreshing. This is one of those eye-openers when in the open. In the mid and going into the dry down, I've been smelling this and I'm likely editing out because I have been smelling it a lot. I will say that this very much reminds me of fall time a little bit because of that apple and that mint, but it also carries the kind of modality of a typical German archetype fragrance. What do I mean by that? If you've ever smelled any of the Hugo Boss fragrances, they all carry a similar DNA. Yes, one of them, they may be going in different directions depending upon what that fragrance is trying to do, but the Hugo Boss DNA is very similar and runs true. It's like a single thread where they all meet at a particular tandem, and that is the DNA that is in all Hugo Boss fragrances, and it's very much like this. It's kind of that, if I would have to say what accord it would be the cashmere and apple. The cashmere and apple gives it that kind of like the maninka fruit in the scent. The scent Absolute gives it that kind of dusty, kind of dark, complex, dusty fragrance. It's also fruity and semi-sweet. So the apple and the cashmere and in the dry down is what's bringing out that Hugo Boss DNA, and I really like that. So it's very reminiscent of other Hugo Boss fragrances, and if you own any of those, you're good. You're good. Is that a reason to stay away from Just Different? No, I like it a lot. It is going to be, again, that DNA characterizes the fragrance, but it doesn't make the fragrance. In other words, there are characteristics about this that's going to be different than other Hugo Boss fragrances, and it's different enough, definitely, to add to your rotation. It's dissimilar enough to the other Hugo Boss fragrances. It's familiar, but dissimilar. Probably the best way to put it. The wonderful thing about being a huge multiplicitous house like Hugo Boss is that you can keep your costs down, and they do, and they offer this at a really, really very affordable price. Now, as I do in every video, I will leave the link down below where you can purchase this at, give you a couple of price options, but again, it's very affordable and very, very easily accessible to be put in your rotation. So ultimate verdict is yes, 5 for 5. Hugo Boss Just Different is definitely worth getting, and especially at the price point that you're purchasing this at, absolutely no complaints, especially for a 125 ml bottle and a presentation that is this pleasing. I'm proud to put it on my shelf and add it to my rotation, and I think you will be too. Well, that's it, guys. Don't forget to watch my supplemental information right after this, or you can call it behind the scenes, whatever you want, where I add additional things that I may have forgotten, give you some additional tips or thoughts on this fragrance or upcoming releases. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. As always, thank you so much for your support. I tremendously appreciate it. Honestly, I truly do. I wouldn't be doing this, I wouldn't be here without you guys. Now stay tuned tomorrow morning. We're gonna have day 6 of our blind buy week, first impressions week. So looking forward to busting a cellophane off of another package with a brand new bottle, and we can experience it together and find out if we can either find something new to add to our collection or something that we can steer away from and dodge a bullet, a fragrant bullet, as it were. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you in the morning. Hey guys, it's Tommy with Studio Sense. Welcome to my supplemental information and or behind the scenes video, I guess you could call it. Not really a lot of information to share, just a couple of things. First of all, I've had several hours to wear and experience Hugo Boss Just Different, and I have to say, unfortunately, it's not a banger. Unfortunately, it falls right in line with several of those Hugo Boss fragrances that are extremely pleasant, but after about 5 to 6 hours, they become somewhat of a skin scent. Now, 5 to 6 hours of longevity isn't really bad. That's around average for a modern fragrance. Modern day fragrances are dialed back a little bit. They're not quite as loud. They're not quite as aggressive. They're not quite there's not as much concentration of oils as in back years ago when there wasn't like such fragrance sensitivity, people very sensitive to fragrances and I guess noisy or loud fragrances as a public nuisance. That wasn't really a big deal back then. I don't know, because the internet wasn't around or for whatever reason, modern fragrances are a little bit softer and subdued, and this is no different. But I really do still like, as much as I liked before doing this video, I really like Just Different as a fragrance. It's very, very pleasant. And a lot of times you want to wear a fragrance that only has 5 to 6 hours of longevity, and you don't really want to go for that long haul, the banger. Sometimes you don't want to wear a banger. In the event you don't want to wear a banger and you just want to reach for something a little bit different than your signature scent, or just something that's got a nice kind of a spicy mint apple fragrance and or modality or vibe, Just Different is what you want to reach for. One other thing I wanted to share with you is there is a new Hugo Boss release called Hugo Boss Now, N-O-W. I'll show you a screenshot here. I'm looking forward to getting that. I have that on order, and that will be coming in the next week or so, and I will do a first impressions video and or video review of that fragrance. That's a new blue fragrance coming out for summer 2020 release. So look forward to that, so stay tuned. If you haven't already hit that bell icon, again, hit that bell icon to be notified of new content as it drops. That's it, guys. Don't really have much else for you, so thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy, be safe, have fun at home. Hashtag stay home, be safe, be good. I will see you in the morning.